Hi, welcome to my mini ball 10-week series. You're about to embark on a great journey based on your core. So within these 10 weeks, I'll be taking you through a series of exercises in a progressive movement. So each week we'll be building. We'll be focusing on not only the front core, which most of us are familiar with, but we'll also be tackling the obliques, back body, legs, hips, glutes, and a little bit of arm work. I want to encourage you to utilize the variations when available, and just keep in mind that more does not always equal better. So you will be working in repetition of anywhere from sometimes 3 reps to up to 10 reps. But the most important thing is that you listen to your body. I'll be giving you some staple cueing this first week to really keep in mind as you work through these 10 weeks in order to work safely and effectively. Let's begin. Hi, welcome. Hope Zvara here with Lainey Burkett, and we are going to be taking you through your 10-week mini ball series. Through these 10 weeks, I will be instructing Lainey, who will be my model, into various exercises and movements. So I want to encourage you to follow along with Lainey. She'll be showing you variations along the way, and just make sure, again, you listen to your body. When we think about working with a mini ball, Lainey will grab one here. It's really important that we, not overinflate the mini ball. So you'll notice that our balls look a little deflated. Typical rule of thumb, you're going to have less air for the smaller frame person you are, more air for a larger frame person that you are. So just keeping that in mind, because we want to make sure that your body's in charge of the exercises and not actually the prop. Secondly, 80% of the general population has back pain or has had back pain. So if you're someone like myself, having had back pain previously, I really understand the need for proper core work. Our back is a part of our core. So a lot of these exercises you'll notice, you may be feeling work in your back. I want to encourage you to differentiate between what is pain and what is those muscles actually working, maybe for the first time ever. You'll notice that a lot of the supine work that we do is also with the ball underneath our sacrum. And that's because we want to acknowledge 360 degrees of the core, meaning front, sides, and back. We'll also be working with neutral pelvis and neutral spine. This is also very essential in order for us to retrain our body to a normal, healthy posture. So that during the day, the things that we're doing during the day are going to reflect the work that we've been putting in on the mat. All right, so Lainey's going to get started here, and she is going to take her ball, and she's going to sit sitting lengthwise on her mat with her feet out in front of her, and her feet are going to be about sit bones width apart. So if you feel those little bony protrusions underneath your glutes, right about here, she's going to line up her heels with that width. Now, rule of thumb, if you're a male and working with these exercises, or if you find that you have a little bit tighter hips, or a little bit larger framed in the front, feel free to slightly widen the feet. I wouldn't say all the way to a mat's width, but play with that range so that you're comfortable and you're not feeling the need to have the knees flap open in order to feel comfortable in the movements. In addition, I'll encourage you, if you have too many balls, a great investment, to stick one between the legs or a 4-inch foam block. Using a 4-inch foam block will give you a more accurate hips distance or sit bones distance than using a 3-inch block or a rolled towel, but ultimately use what you have. Our second ball is going to be placed behind the sacrum. So when we place the ball behind the sacrum, I want to encourage you, Lainey's kind of tucking it tightly, but not under her. There's also no gap between her back and the ball. This is really important that we have full contact with that ball, so when she leans back here in a little bit, that she has that security between her and the ball, and ultimately, though, she's in control, not the ball. So I'm just going to have Lainey sit nice and tall, and feeling as though she's on her sit bones, that ball tucked behind. This is going to be kind of your preparatory position. So when we go through the movements in a seated position, I want you to make a memory of how this feels, and feel free even just to practice this seated position. But for now, we're actually going to come to standing, and we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up. So Lainey can drop the ball off to the side. She's going to take one with her standing. And this is just a little nice challenge for balance. So standing with a comfortable foot's distance, really casual, but preferably toes forward. Lainey's going to take the ball in her right hand and just toe touch out with her left foot and just do a nice little touch and extend. So she's going to do about 3 to 5 of them. So she's going to cross the midline, bring foot up to leg, and extend open again. And then again, one more time, cross the midline and extend open again. And then try the opposite side. So just focusing on balance, focusing on control, And maybe Lainey can exaggerate one folding towards the leg rather than standing tall and trying to bring the leg and the ball together. So now do a really good one for me, Lainey. Awesome. Great. And if you found that there was a weaker side, go back and do that side again and really focus on stability. I would much rather have you feeling stable and working the movement slower and more mindfully than rushing through it and thinking, oh, I'm going to do 10, and that way I'll be much more successful in the exercises. Great. Second, Lainey's going to drop the ball out to the side, and I'll have her turn sideways. Hands on your knees, feet are about a comfortable hips distance, either outer hip or neutral, and she's going to work with a standing cat-cow. So on the inhalation, she's going to arc the small of her back and move her chest forward, and then exhale, pulling in around the spine, feel stretch and space through her entire back body. So do about 5 more for me, Lainey. Inhaling when she arcs, and as she exhales, imagining her pelvic core dragging her tailbone between her legs, and feeling the space on the inhale between her sternum and her pubis bone. So really stretching that rectus abdominis muscle. Nice. So she's going to finish up with maybe about 2 more. And then slowly rolling back up. Awesome. It's nice to be doing some warm-ups in a standing position or an upright position because we spend most of our day in this position and really trying to reprogram our body and our muscles and our movements to kind of meet that need. So now she's going to come back down. Remember that preparatory position that she was in. Let's see if she can remember. Ball between the knees, ball behind her back. Feeling the feet secure. And if you're noticing you have tighter calves and Achilles tendons, definitely check out some of my other videos on YouTube on how to release the back legs. But also, if you need to, having a rolled towel, just bring the feet to a subtle angle, may also be a temporary solution for you. All right, so sitting nice and tall, she's going to feel her heart nice and tall. Remember, we have 4 curves in the spine. So it's not our goal to straighten out the spine, but feel length in the spine, honoring those curves. So her chin is always going to be level, eye line more forward, unless she leans back, that she would end up looking upright. Her pelvis is going to be in neutral to start, but what we're actually going to have her do is when contracting the pelvic floor, so contracting anal sphincter back by the tailbone, contracting vaginal passageway for women, or that soft tissue right behind the scrotum for men, it's that central canal lift, and then also up by the pubis bone, the urethra, which is going to help control our bladder. So these 3 contractions, she's going to work continuously, each week it will get better, to contract those areas without death squeezing her glutes. What happens when we over squeeze the glutes, especially with a lack of pelvic floor work, we turn off the transverse abdominal and we turn off the rectus abdominal. So we're kind of defeating the whole purpose of good core work with the wrong big bulky muscles. So keeping length in the spine, she's not going to round through her back here. On the exhalation, I'm actually going to keep my hand here to make sure she doesn't. She's going to gently kiss her sacrum to the green ball. So exhale, she's going to do a little pelvic tilt. Initiating that tilt with her pelvic floor muscles. Do you feel like you're doing that? Rather than just me tilting the bony structure of my body. So keeping that tilt, breathe into your side lungs. And now on the exhalation, she's going to contract the pelvic floor, hold that, inhale, lean back about 45 degrees. Keeping that pressure of her sacrum into the ball. Perfect. So now here, I'm going to have her lift her arms up about shoulder level. If she wasn't keeping that tilt, she'd get what I call rectus pufus. The belly muscles popping out and a jarring in her lower back. And you'll feel it, it's not comfortable. Keeping that contraction, it's almost like her lower belly is smiling. She feels that pull up. Now, if she changes the angle of her arms up higher or lower, she's going to start to feel what I like to call the earthquake. So she's noticing this shake and quiver without feeling hip flexor pain. If there's hip flexor pain, 1, little engagement on the green ball. 2, lower the arms down to a more appropriate alignment. Or feel free to come up a couple more degrees. You have lots of options. Awesome. So as she holds here, I'm going to make her hold about 3 more breaths, you as well. So inhaling through the nose, breathe into your side lungs. Exhaling, remembering that deep core contraction. Relax your jaw, soft shoulders. 1 more breath, deep breath in. Now pulling up through your trunk, exhale, float yourself up and release the arms down slow. Nice job. Just roll out the shoulders. I'm going to have her come back 1 more time and we're going to start to work with an up-down arm movement. She's only going to lift her arms up as high as she can comfortably without arcing the back. So I'm going to have her come all the way back up to seated. I'll have her drop her arms, and feel free, you can always just hold the position. Either arms out in front or hands under the knees. Work where you can feel the most successful and then progress from there. All right, so let's start from the setup. Sitting nice and tall. Exhale, pelvic tilt from that initiation of the pelvic floor. Inhale, lean back 45 degrees with that connection of your back or sacrum to that green ball. Now on the inhalation, arms lift up, shoulders stay soft, chest open. Exhale, pelvic core contracts as you lower the arms down. So she's going to do 9 more. Inhaling when you lift, exhaling when you lower. Nice. Inhaling when she lifts and exhaling when she lowers. Again, if you're feeling hip flexor flaring, either one, your psoas and iliacus are taking over. They may be your primary core stabilizers, and they shouldn't be. We're looking to be in the pelvic floor. We're looking to be in the transversus abdominis, multifidi, and diaphragm. So we want to make sure we're in those deep, deep, deep core muscles. How are you doing, Lainey? Inhaling, lifting, shoulders stay soft. And exhaling. Arms are going too high when you're clenching the jaw, shrugging the shoulders. I'm going to challenge her to 1 more here. Keep the pelvic floor initiated. This is where it all begins, in that pelvic floor. And as the arms come down, she's going to hold, then inhale. We're going to move slowly. Exhale, bring yourself back up. Nice. Let's have you move the ball, bottoms of the feet together, a little bound angle just to release the hips. So just focusing on opening the hips, keeping length in the spine. And just nice big breath in, breathing into your back body. Exhale, just really trying to soften the body down towards the floor. Head and neck relaxes. And so just nice deep breath in, nice deep breath out. Giving yourself as many little breaks along the way as you need in order for your body to feel balanced. When we think about good core work, we're going to really feel as though we try to focus on control and form rather than just fierce and fast. Because what ends up happening is we fire the wrong big bulky muscles instead of those little deep ones that should be working. And for many of us, we've been using the wrong muscles our whole life, and that's typically why we have pain or injury. All right, bring yourself up nice and slowly. Next movement or stability point we're going to work with is a sideline position. So I'm going to have Lainey lay sideline, and I'm actually going to have her line up with the back edge of the yoga mat. And the nice thing about lining up with the back edge of the yoga mat is the yoga mat doesn't lie, it is straight. So then that way the legs aren't going crooked or her head's not going crooked. So she's going to take one of the green balls now and actually place it underneath her soft part between her rib and her hip. It's not under your pant, under your hip. It's in that spacious oblique cavity. So what it actually helps her do is stay more upright and neutrally aligned in the spine. Once she has that position, we're going to check hip stacking. Typically what ends up happening for many people is the hip either drops too far back because they're used to grabbing with their hip flexor when it comes to core work, especially the oblique, or the hip drops forward because they're used to using the medius and minimus, which is the upper gluteal area, instead of using that oblique itself. So if you're feeling pinching in that upper glute, lower back region, I'm going to ask you to try to really focus on readjusting the hips. You may even benefit from staggering the legs, which is what I'm going to show you next. Stability is always obviously something we're focusing on, like I said before. So double stacked legs is going to be a much more challenging variation. That being said, if your legs are flying up off the floor every time you try to initiate oblique work, this is not the right variation for you yet. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is stagger your legs like a scissors. If the top leg comes forward, the bottom leg has to pull back so that the hip point that's pointing up towards the ceiling has a straight imaginary line, equal distance between your back toes and your front heel. Why is that important? If you only bring the top leg forward, you're going to fall forward because you're not balanced. If you think about a scissor opening, both sides of the scissor opens, not just one side. So we have to kind of think about that for our legs. I would rather have someone staggered and really in their oblique and really working in the proper area of the body than stacked and struggling and just rocking everywhere. What most people find when they come to my classes and come to my trainings is that we have to totally reprogram our thinking because what we've always thought isn't really working, and so it's kind of like a going backwards to go forwards. So Lainey's going to choose her appropriate foot pattern that she feels most comfortable with. Don't be surprised if along the way she has to change it. Okay, she's working just as hard as you are, and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. For today's practice, we're just going to do a hover and hold and really try to focus on integrating both internal and external oblique. So this whole section of the body without overusing the neck, chest, and shoulder muscles. As I come towards her upper body, she's going to bend the bottom elbow and then bring the hand to the side of the head and just fingertip the side of the head really lightly. Keeping her shoulders relaxed, her front hand is going to be secure in front, either a gentle palm or fingertipping the floor. Either way, I do not want her or you to press and death grip the floor, being the arm is the only reason you're lifting. You are going to feel some tricep work, but I want you to be in your oblique first. So this first round here, we're just going to hover and hold. So she's going to be on the floor. Deep breath in. I'm going to make sure she stays stacked and doesn't curl her body. As she exhales, she's not going to push up. She's just going to pull her elbow out behind her. So deep breath in. She hasn't lifted any higher, but she is turned on. Deep breath out. Pelvic core contracts. So we're pulling up that pelvic energy. Deep breath in. Shoulder stays relaxed, deep breath out, nice. Again, really focusing on staying soft here, deep breath in. Again, exhale, cultivating that deep core energy. 2 more breaths, she's gonna go. And after her second exhalation has completed itself, she's gonna drop down and do a nice full stretch, bringing both arms alongside her head. Nice. So just a nice stretch. Now press through your top foot, Lainey, and reach through your top arm. Almost like you're grabbing that top wrist with the bottom hand and giving it a nice pull. So she's getting really great length through here. And we often think of a stretch as it has to be this extreme type of movement. We have to go really far. But she should be feeling some good space here. Yeah? Just really on a nice subtle level and really integrating mind and body together to feel that. Awesome. So she's going to come back up again. And we're going to start to experiment with a lift and lower. So it's not this rapid pulsing motion. Can you kind of give me a nice demonstration, Lainey, of what we're probably used to doing at the gym? What we're going to do is we're going to slow that down, really focus on the oblique, and I'm going to make you have to work for it. So for today's practice, we're going to do 3 lift and lowers, but you'll notice this is a very slow lift and lower. So it'll go something kind of like this. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift the elbow. Nice, so hold it right there. Inhale, float up 1 inch. Exhale, hold, relax the shoulder. Inhale, lower down 1 inch. Exhale, hold and hover. Inhale, lift 1 inch. Exhale, hold and hover. Inhale, lower 1 inch. Exhale, hold and hover and drop it to the floor. So you'll noticing that we're lifting on the inhales and holding on the exhales. So that way on that exhale, we can kind of recollect all of that core strength. We're not pressing with the arm, and we're also trying not to focus on really getting high. I'd rather have you go a ½ inch and really focus here than push 5 inches because you think that's what's supposed to happen. So pay attention to that, and I'm watching you. All right, so we're going to try 3 up and downs or lift and lowers. So that first lift, when she's just going to come off the floor, she's just going to pull her elbow back. So inhaling, exhale, hold here, relax the shoulder. Inhale, lift, hold it. And then exhaling, nice, down on the inhale. Exhale, holding. Inhale, lift, this is 2. Exhale, holding. Inhale, lower. Exhale, holding. One more time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, holding. Inhale, lower. Exhale, holding. And then drop it down, stretch it out. Now, if you find that lift and lower is challenging, and it can be deceiving, this movement is really challenging, I want to encourage you in between the lifts and lowers, when you come down, just touch the floor and take a break, and then come back again. Again, the goal is to be successful. Now, let's move to the opposite oblique. So Lainey's going to lift up and actually flip her head to the opposite side of the mat, but you can just roll over and face the other direction if you'd like. Again, setting up the ball in that kind of fleshy area of the oblique. She's going to stagger or stack her feet, keeping her top hip pinned. Now, if you have bonier hips, which for some of us we might, make sure you have an ample cushioned mat or set a hand towel underneath the hip so that you're not rocking back or forward in order to accommodate that bony protrusion. So just try to find that alignment. And then again, she feels really open and long through the chest. She should never feel as though this part of her body is shortening. She should always feel like she's this beautiful neutral line Awesome. So now again, we're just going to try that hover and hold. So inhale to prepare, exhale, pull the elbow out from behind, deep breath in, neck feels long, deep breath out. She's engaging from the bottom into that deep core. Watching again, not to let the hip rock or the feet fly. Nice. So 2 more breaths, breathing nice and calm after that last exhale. She's going to drop down slow and stretch it out. Awesome. Move that for you. So again, focusing on that length. When it comes to hovering with the hand under the head, try to focus on not pressing your head. So kind of what I call hold the cell phone. There should be ample space on both sides of the neck at all times, almost like you're wearing a big woolly scarf. So less action here, more action here. Okay, so now we're going to go right into that lift and lower. Remember, we're doing 3 times today. I really want you to focus on being effective here. Part of good core work, or using your body just in any movement pattern during the day or in exercise, is that we integrate the mind and the body together. So Lainey has to think about the area of the body that she's trying to initiate. Even if she feels like she can't get it to turn on, eventually she's going to get it rewired. The thought process behind that is like an electrician. He's going to come in and rewire the house, but first he has to learn or be taught what wires go with what. And that's exactly what she's doing right now and what you're doing with me today. All right, deep breath in. Exhale, release the elbow back. Nice. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, hold, soft shoulder. Inhale, lower down. Now you can touch if you need to. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift. We're focusing here. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. One more time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. You're doing great. Inhale, lower. Stay with me. Exhale, drop it down. Stretch it out. Now, one thing I like to work with my yoga practice, with my core exercises, with anything really I'm teaching, is a 2-to-1 ratio. And this 2-to-1 ratio was brought to my attention by a man named Stuart McGill, and he's thought to be one of the leading back experts in the world. He's based out of Toronto, Canada, and he believes that what you do to the stronger side, you really need to do to the weaker side twice. And so we're really going to be following that through our practices over the next really 9 weeks now. And anytime there's a side to side, we'll always go back and do that weaker side. It doesn't have to be exactly what we did before in ratio or repetition, but we want to revisit that side. All right, come back up, Lainey. And what did you feel like was your weaker side? All right, so we're going to stay here. If you need to flip, you flip. All right, hips are stacked. She's choosing her proper leg staggered position. We're going to go with the hover, and then we're going to try to go right into the lift and lower. Remember, if you need to, you step down, pause me, take a break, join us when you're ready. All right, deep breath in, and pull the elbow back. 3 breaths here. So deep breath in. I'm cutting it down from 5. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Really think about it. Deep breath in. Exhale. Now inhale, float up, even if it's just a ½ an inch. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift. You're doing great. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. One more time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Don't give up. And then exhale, lower down. Stretch it out. So again, pressing from the top foot to the top arm. Really try to create some space in the body here. Take a couple good breaths. Nice job. All right, roll off to your side. Use your top hand for help and bring yourself up. We're actually going to come into a bridge position. So Lainey's going to lay back. And we're going to talk a little bit about foot setup. So when it comes to bridging with the feet, now if you're a yogi, you probably have been taught to really tuck the heels underneath the sit bones. But what happens with that is it's a really small gap for the pelvis to open itself. So you're kind of taking the letter V and trying to flip it in reverse. And if the quadriceps and hip flexors are tight, that's going to be really hard to do. Not to mention that's going to put more stress and tension on the lower back. So what I want to encourage you to do is bring your feet, first of all, about sits bones width. So she's going to narrow her feet. I'm going to check to make sure her feet, and that's good there. She's going to check to make sure one foot isn't further forward than the other. And if you're at home, bring your toes up against a wall. That way you know that they're even. Just recognize they might not feel even if your normal has not been neutral in the past. Secondly, if she would reach her fingertips, which she's doing right now, she can't touch her heels. So that's what we want. We do not want our fingertips to be able to touch our heels. That space is way too small, and it can bring a lot of havoc to the lower back. And our core work is supposed to be helping our lower back, not hurting our lower back. With bridging, this is going to be a tribute to the glutes and hamstrings. That being said, she should not have to death squeeze her glutes in order for them to turn on. Remember what I said previously, you squeeze too much of the glute cheeks, you're going to turn off the rectus and the transversus in front. So she's going to let them turn on naturally with the success of her contracting the pelvic floor. So pelvic floor contracts first, glutes contract second. And then you move into the movements. Her body is automatically learning proper patterning. With this here, I'm going to stick a green ball between her knees and give that a nice squeeze. Now, if she needs to adjust her feet, I'll let her do that. If you don't have a green ball, obviously a block would work. I would hope you have a green ball, though, or a mini ball, because that's what this whole program is based around. All right, so she's going to keep her feet grounded. She's not going to rock to the outer edges of the feet. Think about your core starting from the inner arch, coming up through the inner thigh and feeding into the pelvic core. So trying to keep that center line really hugged throughout her entire body. Her chest is going to stay open. Her chin will slightly fall to her chest when she lifts into a bridge. Now, different from a yoga bridge, we're not going to be coming up into an arched position. We're actually staying in neutral pelvis. She'll take her hands and find her hip bones, her ASIS, put her heels of her hands there, and then line up her fingertips by her pubis bone and find what I like to call the pelvic triangle. These three bony landmarks, not your flesh, your actual bone, is going to line up parallel with the ceiling. What that should leave you with is a natural curve in the lower back. This is your natural spine or your lumbar curve. We want that. We don't want to press the back into the floor and lose that curve and retrain our body out of its neutral or natural alignment. So she's there, she's looking great. Now she's going to try to keep that position when she lifts. When we come into bridge, we're going to be working with some leg lifting variations, and we'll progress through the week, so I'll be giving you some more challenging variations. So I just want you to hold tight and work with me where we're at today. All right, so nice hug on the green ball. Inhale, breathe into your lungs. Let's just take one nice breath here. Exhale, focus on contracting the pelvic core, okay? Inhale, breathe into your lungs again. Her arms are going to drop now. Exhale, pressing into your feet. Float your body up a few inches. And that's probably good right there. Keeping a secure engagement, the inner thighs are the pelvic floor's favorite neighbor. Deep breath in, we're just going to hold 5 breaths. Deep breath out, contract. Nice. Feeling really secure in the feet and feeling that transfer of energy through her back body and through her core. So she should be feeling her glutes contract because her pelvic floor is contracting and she's in proper alignment. So 2 more breaths. And again, shoulders are soft. Nice. 1 more breath. Keep your feet active and your lower body active. And then when she's ready, she's going to drop down. And I'm going to give her a little bit of an arc release. So arms release overhead. Let the back arch. Nice little pelvic tilt, or we call an anterior tilt, because the front of her body is tipping towards the ceiling or tipping forward. Nice. And then arms come back down again. She's going to find neutral pelvis 1 more time. So this time when she lifts, she's going to barely lift 1 heel off the floor. So the ball of the foot's going to stay down. She can stay down, but I'm going to have Lainey lift up this heel, just barely. Imagine wearing like a little starter heel shoe or having a positive angle in that foot, but her thighs are not going to change height and her hips are going to stay very level. These things are really important, and the reason being is that once we start to tip and shift in trying to lift this heel, we're shifting into all the wrong muscles. So we want to do it what I call in like a sneaky way. Lifting the heel that if we never saw from the ankles down, we would have no idea that 1 heel is lifted. Again, trying to connect her brain with what her body is doing. Please stay on the mat mentally with me. All right, so heel's going to drop. She feels secure in her feet. If you're not ready for that variation, if your body is all over the place, just stay with the bridge. Totally successful. All right, deep breath in. Pelvic floor contract. Stay here. Exhale. Just nice contraction. Deep breath in again. Breathe into your lungs. Exhale, float up. Nice. We'll just take a breath here. And what you might find too is you're a little overambitious with your height if you find that you're struggling to lift that heel. So on the next exhale, without shifting anything, I'm going to have her barely lift her left heel off the floor. Perfect. And we're going to hold 5 breaths. Keeping your thighs level and engaging towards that green ball to help keep the pelvic floor strong. Nice. Nice breath in and nice breath out. Now, if she's feeling pretty good here, she can bend her elbows into what I call robot arm, or take her arms off the floor altogether. Less arm on the floor, less stability. So she's going to go wherever she feels most comfortable but challenged. Perfect. One more breath. Now the heel is going to drop first, her body's going to drop second. Nice job. Just a nice little arc again. Inhaling, really extend, create that nice space. You feel really good on your lower back. Exhale, bring the arms back. You know neutral now. Find that neutral. I don't care how many times you need to put your hands on your pelvis to find it. Until you feel like that's automatic, you're going to do that with me. All right, so now again, I'm going to have her turn her feet in just a hair. Perfect. Inhale to prepare. Stay here. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor, engage on your ball. Now inhale again. And exhale, feel a gentle lift. Notice how we're lifting a lot with the exhale here, so we can really use that core strength. All right, so nice big breath in. Exhale, lift your opposite heel, barely off the floor. Again, keeping your thighs level. So the key is when you lift the heel is to really press into the opposite leg. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Nice. So she's going to try to go 2 more breaths. If the backs of your legs are tight, you sit a lot, you're going to find some cramping. I want to suggest that you do some calf stretches. Again, I have great videos called Functional Calf Stretch on YouTube. They're free. 1 more breath. And then again, heel drops, body drops. Extend. Nice. Deep breath in. Really try to stretch into your lungs rather than just belly breathe. We need that belly for core strength. All right, arms come down. Lady's going to choose her weaker side. So now that being said, don't be surprised if one oblique was stronger and then it's the opposite leg. You have to feel in your body and pay attention to that. If they were very similar, think about some of the day-to-day exercises and activities that you do, and if you notice that one side is more dominant, do that opposite side. So there's other ways of thinking about it too. All right, so she's going to turn her feet in ever slightly for me. Perfect. Engage on the green ball, and when she's on the next exhale, she's going to contract the pelvic floor, staying here. Inhaling deeply, she's going to float back up into that bridge pose. Keeping a secure engagement on the green ball, deep breath in. Now lift your weaker side's heel, or whichever side you felt was more challenging. For Lainey, it looks like lifting that left heel was more challenging for her. Pushing securely into your base foot. Try not to rock or roll on the foot one way or another. And she looks pretty secure. She's going to take 2 more breaths for me. Deep breath in, hips look level, deep breath out. 1 more breath, deep breath in. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor, drop the heel, lower your body down slow. I'm going to take the ball for her. Now she's going to work with a full body stretch. So she's going to reach arms overhead, exaggerate the curve of her back body, reach through the arms, nice breath in, nice breath out. All right, nice job. Staying on your back, I'm going to have her take the green ball now, knees bent, and we're going to work in a tabletop position in a supine seated or supine position. So lifting the hips, she's going to stick the ball underneath her backside. And there is a little bit of etiquette with this. So when we place the ball underneath the spine, or underneath the sacrum, we want to make sure that her spine is totally free floating. So I usually tell my students the ball gets placed kind of where the flat part, where your pants sit, that's called your sacrum. It's actually 3 bones butting up next to each other, and it feels like one big flat bone. We want to make sure that the lumbar curve is free, so we're working 360-degree core. So again, if you're wondering, well, what's the difference between this and me doing sit-ups? When you're doing sit-ups, you only can go into flexion. You can't go into extension. But also, in addition, you do not have this negative space between you and the floor. So this is where we start to actually utilize our back muscles and utilize our spinal muscles and our stabilizers. We do not get that opportunity when we're flat on the floor. So we're overusing the front core and underusing the back core. You see how then we're really kind of setting ourselves up for major vulnerability out in just normal functioning life? Our exercises should be helping us, not hurting us. All right, neutral pelvis. She's going to find that neutral pelvis with her hands again. Perfect. And I really want to encourage you, stability before mobility. That means if I cannot be stable, I am not ready to be mobile. So keeping that in mind, if you're all over the ball, you're not ready for whatever you're trying to do right now. Just back off. A couple different arm variations again. Palms face in, forearms on the floor. And we're going to go into a robot arm or fingertips up off the floor. Now you might be feeling like, oh yeah, I totally want to be here. I want you again to be stable first. and also be in a position where you can be the most successful in the right muscles. Retraining our thought pattern. All right, so Lainey's going to pick wherever she feels most comfortable, and don't be surprised, she may move her arms depending on what movement we're doing and how she feels successful. So from here, we're actually going to do a little hover and hold. So keeping neutral pelvis, imagine inside your pelvic floor and lower core, there's like a little fishing reel lifting your leg or floating your leg rather than the hip flexors. So deep breath in, exhale, lift one leg, tabletop, you got it. Deep breath in, exhale, float the other leg up. She's going to try to be as stable as she possibly can. Now that being said, I could stick a green ball between her knees to help her engage more fully in the pelvic floor if she's struggling with that. If you had a third ball or a block, you could also stick something between the ankles. Well, let's move it down a little bit. There we go. So then that way she has a nice, strong center line. Here I want to ask you, how long do you think you could stay in this position? Continuously focusing on the exhale and contracting. 2 breaths, 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours. How long can you maintain good core stability? This is the reality. We should not be turning off our core during the day and then turning it on when we need it. In all reality, it should be an automatic body part that's working all the time, and like an idle, about 30% of our maximum capacity. So when we do need it for something even more intense, it's ready to go, like a car ready to drag race. So Lainey's going to take one more breath. If I had her lift her arms up, and let's just imagine this is not very stable for her, and all of a sudden she's kind of doing the hula on the ball, this is not the right variation for her. So I'm going to have her bring her arms down, maybe even to the floor depending. I'm going to remove these for her since I'm here. Nice big breath in. Keeping neutral, slowly lower the feet down to the floor. Nice. So just that stability point is a great place to start and practice because again, if you can't be stable, you can't be mobile. Awesome. So next variation that we're going to do, Lainey's going to take a stretch here, is we're going to work with what's called bracing. Bracing gives us a real experience on what the core contraction actually feels like. So she's going to stay in neutral pelvis. There's no pushing your back towards the floor. And securely with her feet now, once you bring your feet a little bit closer. Perfect. I'm going to have her lift her right leg up to a tabletop. Exhaling, you're going to do the same thing. So keeping your knee right above your hip and the foot kindly flexed, take your opposite arm, flex the palm, and press it against your thigh. So you're feeling this connection between the arm and the leg. This is called bracing. When you brace, your core stiffens or co-contracts, meaning all the muscles in your tubular core are working together. This should not make you hunch, or this should not make you create more of a rounded out lower lumbar. So Lainey's feeling some good contraction. If I touch her belly, it's like a minimum of 30%, up to how strong she feels so she can successfully contract. Awesome. So now releasing that arm and leg, she's going to try the other side too. So lifting the other leg. This is a great core exercise. I do not want to deter you thinking, oh, this seems so simple. When she exhales, focusing again on the pelvic floor and focusing on that transversus, which is a tubular muscle. It's actually a back muscle. It's our deepest core muscle. It is so essential, yet many of us are not accessing it because we're moving too quick and we're moving too mindlessly. All right, she's going to lower that leg down again. Which side do you feel like is a little harder? All right, so she's going to go to her weaker side. Bring that foot up and just nice breath in, nice breath out, 3 to 5 breaths. That bracing is tensing her core, is using those muscles. We often just are so used to thinking repetition is the only way to work the core, and it's not. Again, stability before mobility. This is also a great rehab or recovery core exercise as well. Awesome, coming down. Now just for a little bit of a challenge, I'm going to have her come up into a double leg brace. Now this is not for everyone, but I'm just giving you a checkpoint, okay? So she's going to cross arms. I'm going to bring her heels down just a little bit. You can see it's a little challenging for her. Thinking about really recruiting and hugging the center line of her body, she's going to press legs into hands, hands into legs. And we'll just count down from 5. Keep breathing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the arms. Slowly exhale, release the legs. This would be a great checkpoint in for you week to week, and even at week 10, saying, okay, how far have I come? How much stronger is my core? Nice. As she engages in a full body stretch, I'm just going to have her drop her hips side to side. So she's going to swing her hips to one side, nice hip flexor stretch, and then swing her hips to the opposite side. So I'll have her do that a couple of times. Encourage you to do the same thing. lady's gonna come back up into that tabletop again. And we're gonna work with what I like to call toe touch. This is one of my absolute most favorite movements, and I just really feel like it's effective, and I can feel my core working really strong. So I'm actually gonna have her bring her legs back down again, and we're gonna walk you through the setup again. Neutral pelvis, pubis bone, hip bones parallel with the ceiling, pelvic floor contracting. I'm initiating those 3 points of contraction: anal sphincter, perineum, urethra, and then one leg at a time lifting to a tabletop. Now again, I can just stay here. If I'm not stable, I'm not ready to be mobile. Think about that, remember that, embed that into your brain. Keeping the knee at a right angle and keeping the angle at a nice 90-degree angle, she's going to lower her right leg down only as far as she can keep her pelvis neutral and no hip flexor pain. And then exhaling, bringing the leg back up from that internal contraction. I'm going to have her stay with the right leg just for the thought of memory, and I'm going to have her work 5 times. So this is her second one. So when she lifts, I want her to imagine as though there's that fishing reel inside her core. Or if her heel were to touch a hot stove, it would kind of spring back with the use of those deep core muscles. Nice. So after her 5th one, I'm going to have her bring her feet down, take a little break, and then come back up again. As we progress through the 10 weeks, we'll start to eliminate these little breaks and really challenge your core, but hopefully you've been working and you find that all of this is paying off. All right, so lady's going to come up, do that setup again. Neutral pelvis, legs lift on the exhale, feet are flexed, and then again, she's going to work with the opposite leg. Now, as she does her 5 times, I'm going to have her keep track. You can also modify or vary this by the moving leg being up, and this leg could very much be on the floor. So she could work with the lift and lower, especially if she's having hip flexor flaring. She's someone that's been using her hip flexors her whole life as her core, or does a lot of sitting. That may take some time to shut off. This is where, again, the mind is so important. She needs to think about where she's working from, rather than just randomly firing whatever muscle will turn on. And for most of us, that's exercise. I'll do the movement, I'll mimic it, but I'm not using any right muscles. So when Lainey's ready after her 5, she's going to just step her feet down. If she needs to, a little stretch or pelvic tilt. And then you guessed it, we're going to work 2-to-1 ratio. So bringing her feet back to neutral, she's going to lift when she's ready. Again, steady is always the priority. Soft shoulders, open chest, strong transversus. She's going to go back to her weaker leg. Nice. Now on this next one, I'm going to have her only drop halfway. So let's say you're a little bit more tired. She's just going to drop halfway to the floor and then come back up. So she's going to do 3 more. So are you if you're able to. The goal is not the floor. The goal is to be stable here and successful in the right muscles. I cannot stress that enough. And then, so then after her 5, she's going to again come down to the floor. Nice. Maybe just do a nice little arc here with the knees bent. Awesome. Now I'm going to have her work double leg. So this again may not be for you right now this week, but who's to say next week or the week after you're not going to be able to rock it. All right, so pelvic neutral. Exhale, lifting the legs. Notice how, again, I'm always constantly reminding you pelvic floor first, so it becomes automatically eventually. I'm going to have her lower only a couple inches. So now on the exhalation, she's going to lift. So inhale, lower down, breathe into your lungs. And then exhale, really recruit the deep core muscles. Where I want you to avoid moving is from the knees. So the next one, if Lainey just moves in her knees, so drop your heels only. Okay, versus moving from the hip. So now keep your knees isolated and move from the hip. So open this joint here, and then exhale, contract. I could stick a 3rd or a 2nd ball between her legs to help with some more core recruitment. Lowering on the inhale, no hula dancing. Exhale, contract, and lift. Nice. We're going to try 5, so she's going to do 2 more. Inhale, less is more. I'd rather have you go 2 inches and not flare the hip flexors than try to touch the floor because you feel like that's going to be more effective. Again, using the wrong muscles is not effective. You are setting yourself up for injury later on, somewhere down the line. So after her last one, I'm going to have her bring her feet slowly to the floor. I'll take the ball for her. And then as she sees fit, she can do a nice little full body stretch. Awesome. So again, take a nice breath in. Really focus on widening your lungs, Breathing as much as you can into the full upper thoracic region. All right, so now coming into pelvic neutral, we're almost to the end here of our first session together. She's going to work with what I like to call hip rocking or hip tipping. So she'll come up to a tabletop position and either glue her legs together, or if she has extra props, she's going to bring 2 balls between her legs, which I'm going to grab a second one here for her. And if you have ample proppage, like we do, you're going to sit the smaller ball between the knees, because it's a bulkier area, and the larger one between the ankles, because it's a thinner part, so she feels equal. If you don't have balls, feel free, legs come together, or feel free to use blocks, rolled towels, use what you have. All right, neutral pelvis. So this one is tricky in that it's a tip side to side with the pelvis. So if my arm was her hip bones, ASIS, ASIS, and there's a marble in the middle, my belly button, I'm going to tip the marble over to one hip, bring it back to center, and then tip the marble over to the opposite hip and bring it back to center. Not an easy move, but a really effective one. This is small. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come above her, place one of my hands on each side of her hips, and I'm just going to tap her hip. Deep breath in, tip your hip slightly, almost like you're going to fall off that ball, and then exhale, bring your pelvis back to center. Inhale, tip the opposite way, and exhale back to center. Nice. Lainey's going to keep working with this, and so are you as I kind of talk you through this. What I want you to avoid is hiking the hip up towards the rib cage. It's a side-to-side movement, not an up and down movement. I know this is one of Lainey's challenging movements, so she's working really hard. I call it the bunny tail. You've tipped too far when your booty kind of swings out underneath you. So again, this is a small movement. Don't think it's a big one because it's not. Nice. She's going to do 2 more, and if you can, so are you. Hugging the center line with her core. And on the exhalation, those deep core muscles are what are bringing her back. Once she's done this last set here, she'll either toe touch down if she needs to, otherwise I'm going to have her go right into her weaker side, and she's going to do an additional 5 on that weaker side. Now, if she finds that she's getting a little tired, maybe she's only going to do 3. Maybe she's only going to do 2. That 2-to-1 ratio does not need to be identical to what you've done before. You just want to readdress those muscles one more time to say, hey, I need a little bit more work out of you. Good, drop it down. I'll take the balls for you. Nice job, Lainey. And then this time I'll have her bring her knees into her chest and actually sink her lower back so she feels a nice stretch through here. It feels really nice. You deserve it. And then from there, she'll go into a nice extension, arcing the small of the lower back, stretching her feet over, along, I was going to say overhead, alongside the mat, her arms overhead. Feels really nice. Perfect. All right, so last movement here, tabletop with her legs again, or we'll just start with feet flat on the floor. Sorry about that. And we're going to work with a leg circle. So the circle is actually going to happen from the knee and the hip, so the femur part of the leg, rather than from the knee to the ankle. So keeping one foot on the floor, pelvis is in neutral, okay, neutral spine, pelvic floor contracts. On the exhale, I'm going to have her float her left leg up. So if she needs to, she could easily take her left hand to her left knee just to kind of guide it at first. So I'm going to bring her arm up as high as you can go. Perfect. So now keeping the other side of your body completely stable, your pelvis completely stable. She's going to draw little circles with her knee, not with her foot. So she's going to inhale, swing out, down, and then exhale up through the center line. Nice. I'm going to have her go 5 times one way, 5 times the other way. And so as she feels more comfortable, she doesn't need her hand there anymore, but it's more so as a guide that this is what's moving. So she's really going to work hard, deep core contraction, not to rock on the ball. Remember, again, this is trying to mimic what I like to call like going for a hike at your local lake or your local, what was the word I'm looking for? Thank you, trail, versus on the road. When we're on a non-stable surface, we're firing deeper muscles, what I like to call the stabilizers. So it's a circle that if my arm was my femur, I'm moving in my hip socket rather than taking the socket with. So after she's done 5 one way, she's going to reverse it like she is. Inhale to initiate the circle. Exhale to contract and complete that circle. This is a small movement. If your hip is clicking or popping, make the movement smaller. That also may be a sign that your pelvis is off, and I may encourage you to get an alignment or an adjustment if you're able to do such a thing. Awesome. So after her fifth one, dropping the foot down, she's going to do the same thing on the other side. I don't want to say it's simple because it's not. So inhale to initiate. If you cut the circle in half, inhale the first half, exhale the second half. Really ground through the opposite foot without letting that base knee fall open. So she's going to actually try to hug that base leg a little bit towards the center line. It's almost impossible to do a huge movement. Remember to ask yourself, what's moving the leg? The core. So after she's done 5 one way, she's going to do 5 the other way, and I'll encourage you to do the same thing. And if you find that 5 is too many, do 3, do 2, do 1. Just hold the leg upright. Remember, it's more important to be in the right muscles than to do the right movement with all the wrong muscles. We have to start changing our thinking. So after she's done those 5 and 5, she's going to bring her leg down, she'll finish up, and then she's going to go back again, you guessed it, to that weaker side. So if she needs to give herself a little stretch, or when she's ready, she's going to come right up. And I'll encourage you to do the same thing. Inhale to initiate, exhale to complete. Really focusing on being absolutely steady and stable in her hips. If she felt the need to, she could place her hands on her hip bones and really feel her hips nice and steady and stable. Just a suggestion. If she was starting to feel like she was losing it, starting to feel hip flexor strain or a lack of control in her pelvis, maybe she's going to cut it off and only do 3 and 3 or 2 and 2. Awesome. Great job, Lainey. Perfect. All right, she's going to lift her hips up, remove the ball out from under her, and now full body stretch. Just really extend. Let there be lots of length. Exaggerate this movement here. Really be dramatic in the spine. And then from that dramatic stretch, arms slide open to a T. I'm going to have her bend her knees and then make her feet go as wide as the yoga mat. So you can actually bring your feet to the floor. And then just drop your knees alternating side to side. So when she drops one way, she's going to really exaggerate the arc of the back. And then she's going to do the same thing the opposite way, just a few times each way. And then maybe that last one, she'll hang out on her tighter side just for an extra breath or 2. So maybe 3 to 5 Lainey each way. And then end on your tighter hip. Awesome. So Lainey, finish up on your tighter hip just for an extra little stretch. And then coming back up, I'll have her roll to one side. I'll have you do the same thing, not to strain your neck. So really using your top arm for help, roll yourself up. And then from that position, come into a nice little standing forward bend. So feet are going to come to the floor, knees bent, drop your head, and really feel your feet secure on the mat. So you're that close to your feet. Make sure they're parallel and pointing forward, kind of like they're on water skis. And as she just gives a slight bend to the knees, this gives her much more length in her lower back, so she's not hanging in her mid-spine. I want to re-encourage you that the vertebrae are not hinge joints. And so although they are very versatile, I really want the primary fold to come from your hips. Nice. So just lean a little bit more forward now. Feel that increase in hamstring stretch. Head is very heavy, arms are very relaxed. Nice. Now with bent knees, exhale, pelvic floor strong, press into your feet, roll yourself up. With still soft knees, when you're ready, Lainey, bend your elbows, extend your arms, draw your hips forward, functional extension. Open the front line of your body. Exhale, lower your arms down. And standing nice and tall. Thanks so much, Lainey. I want to thank you guys so much for working with us for this first week. So for this first week, until we see you again on the mat, I want to encourage you to work with this video 3 to 5 times this week. And then we'll do the same thing with week 2, working 3 to 5 times with me. And as we go through these 10 weeks, after all is said and done, hopefully you feel so empowered in your core and very aware of what actually is your core, you find that movements during your day just make so much more sense. Great job. Thanks, son.